Hey guys, I'm Davey Wavey, creator of the gay erotic website Himeros.tv, and today I am joined by sex coach Finn Deerhart, and today we are talking about gay sex, and in particular, sex as art. And girl, your penis is the paintbrush. Let's get started.
There's actually, I've seen art painted exactly that way.
Yeah, well,
It's really cool.
The elder that we worked with, Norm, who's 84, has a T-shirt that's painted by his friend's penis.
Wow.
Yeah, it's iconic.
It's
Legendary.
awesome.
Himeros Live is sponsored by Himeros.tv, created by Davey Wavey. Himeros.tv has everything that you love about porn, the models, the cum shots, the fucking, and combines it with authenticity, vulnerability, pleasure, and sexual exploration through explicit erotic videos co-created by a team of gay sex experts, all designed to give you the best gay sex of your life. It is time to join the gay porn revolution at Himeros.tv. Himeros.tv, it's like porn, but better. Hey, Finn.
Hey, Davey.
We're recording this on Valentine's Day. Love is in the air. Love is in the air. Or is that just the smell of silicone and poppers? I don't know.
Both and. I'm sure somebody's V-Day dream is just that.
How are things? How's New York?
It's great. It's been really fucking cold, and I'm equipped, but I flew in yesterday and I didn't sleep last night very well. So today when I woke up, I thought it must be like 3 a.m. and it was like 7:30 and I felt like I had not even slept. So today's been a little bit of a dream.
Did you get a nice little nap in there?
No, okay. I got up and I worked like a good boy. And I've been walking around looking at art. And so this evening I'm going to go out with my partner and have dinner and just be off.
Yeah. Is that your Valentine's Day plans, dinner?
Yeah.
So original.
I know, right? And we were kind of doing it on the fly too. We're like, I don't know, I'm so tired. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do?
Man, I was like, I can't wait to hear what Finn's doing for Valentine's Day tonight. Like they're going to Central Park and doing like a group orgy or
actually they were talking about like what can we do to be kind of resourcing, like go to a spa or something. We're both just kind of worn out. But he was telling me about one of his ex-boyfriends today and how he was at work and he came home and the room was just covered in roses and his boyfriend is dressed up like a Cupid and like shot him with an arrow and like was in underwear. It was just like I was listening to this being like, God, I've totally failed. I'm exhausted today. I don't know what we're doing tonight. But we kind of live in that way a lot. So
yeah. And like what better to do than what your body is craving? And if it's craving like a relaxing night that, in a good night's sleep, then that's going to feel a lot better than like stretching yourself really thin.
Right. What about you? Yeah. What are you up to?
Recording this podcast and it's pouring rain in Palm Springs. We've had like more rain today than we had all of last year. So I think I'm just going to work, jerk off, and go to bed.
So romantic.
Maybe I'll cook myself a nice dinner. And I've been watching Russian Doll on Netflix, which I've been enjoying. So I'll probably do that and FaceTime with Chad. And I'm going to see him in like 48 hours in Key West. So yeah, I'm saving all my romanticism for that.
Yeah. You just always like FaceTime and whack off together.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I actually love doing that. Although it's a little bit challenging sometimes. But in the past, when I was like in the closet, I did tons of phone sex and like, so I do like to do that when I'm away from my boyfriend.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Maybe I will. It depends because we're also in like different time zones, and he has a lot going on, and like it's hard for us to find like time where we're both like alone. And yeah, we'll see. I'll let you know next week.
Okay.
Maybe he'll join us because we'll be in Key West. That'd be really fun.
Yeah, that would be cool. I haven't even seen him yet.
Oh wow. Also, we totally teased that you and Matt were going to be together this week, and that didn't happen at all. So,
right.
Yeah. Well, so we'll see. Maybe next week. Well, you won't be together because you'll be gone.
I'll be here. I'll be in New York still. I don't know if he'll be here or not, but we might. Okay. I am going to get together with him this weekend in Philly.
Oh, nice. Oh, good. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Nice. Well, I am glad that you're doing well and keeping busy. Hopefully you'll be glad to know that I feel like I've composed myself a little bit since last week. I was really fired up. People who tuned in, or really anyone who follows me on social media, knows that I I was pretty fired up about YouTube's decision to remove the documentary that we discussed last week about Calvin Banks and his experience with childhood sexual abuse. So when we recorded, that video was still removed, and I'm happy to report that it was relisted Friday night. So if you haven't watched it, please do that now. It's on my YouTube channel for who knows how long. So if you want to see it, I think 300,000 people have watched it. I'd love for you to be 300,001.
Yeah.
And I do want to take just a quick, I know I feel like I've like beat a dead horse to death. What's the better expression of that now that we're supposed to say? Because PETA came out with something better. You know, like you don't kill two birds with one stone, you catch two birds with one net. You know,
that's so much better.
It really is.
We just torment them and put them in shock.
Well, yeah, that's true. Okay. Well, I don't want to beat dead horses, but I do want to take a second to share some additional thoughts. And also, I want to read the response that YouTube sent me. Did I share this with you, Finn, already?
No.
Oh, this is good. This is juicy. Okay. Yeah. So I did record like a full-fledged rant on my second YouTube channel. If you're interested, you guys can look that up. It's on my Twitter and Facebook. I know that not everyone follows me on everything, and I do have two different YouTube channels. So, I mean, obviously, I hate internet sex censorship, but I think there was something about this last video that cut like a little bit deeper than kind of the typical experience that I have, and it's not just that this video, it did not violate any of YouTube's community guidelines, and it was removed anyway. But I think it's because like it gave the message that stories like Calvin's shouldn't be told. And even though like I've worked with a lot of people at YouTube, I know that they are well-intentioned people, they're good people who don't personally believe this. But when you take a video down like that, it sends a message that victims of sexual violence shouldn't be heard. And I think this was especially true for people that tried to watch it on blogs that covered the story. And then when they went to click the video, it said it had been removed. And they were like, well, why is this video removed? Like, why can't we hear the story? It does send a powerful message. And I sent a really strongly worded letter to YouTube about it. And I would like to read the full response that I got now. Get yourself comfortable because it is 2 sentences long. I'm just really grateful that someone could take 30 seconds to respond to me. I hope you can read the dripping sarcasm in my voice. Okay.
It's like an auto response on their email.
Yeah, thanks for messaging us. This is what they say. Actually, honestly, that would have felt better to me, I think, getting just an auto response. So someone actually wrote this with words from their brain. All right. Thank you for sharing. I understand the sensitivity. Let me see if there's someone or a particular team I can track down internally who could benefit from hearing this feedback. So in other words, now this is me speaking. In other words, let me try to find someone who cares. Like, just so you know, Davey Wavey and the community of people who watch your videos, you are just a flea on the ass of the elephant that is YouTube. That's who you are. What do you think of the response?
Yeah, there's like a customer service element to it that sounds not personally invested to me, you know, like, like, oh, thank you for sharing, but blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay, thanks. Anyway, and next, you know, it doesn't really have to me, like an empathetic, like, yeah, I totally hear where you're coming from. And I want to help with this situation, and let me put you in contact with someone that can definitely help you. And, you know, like an active role. Right. I don't hear that at all.
Right. And so she's going to try to find someone for whom like my feedback will have value.
It's like, let me transfer you to the queue.
Yeah. And I don't think that I would ever hear back, except I did respond today saying, I've been talking to a lot of journalists about this, and one in particular is really like trying to get to the bottom of this. And he's like, I want to speak to that person before I rip them a new one. And so I responded and I was like, hey, there's a journalist that wants to talk to you. Like, can I do an email intro? So now they're probably gonna be like, oh, there's a journalist. There's a journalist.
Right.
But
a lamb to slaughter.
something that we didn't mention last week, and I don't know how closely, Finn, you follow this, but have you followed like the laws that were passed last year, SESTA and FOSTA, which were meant to end sex trafficking? Do you know about this?
You and I talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Very remotely. Yeah. Say more.
And I think that this is probably also what's impacting the stuff that you've tried to post on Facebook, and because you've run into similar issues as what I'm experiencing. And these laws are meant to, end or reduce sex trafficking by holding platforms accountable to the content that users share. So, a lot of people actually point to these laws as the direct reason for Tumblr removing porn and Craigslist removing their personal ads. But there's a lot of issues with the laws in that it conflates legitimate sex work with sex trafficking. And I mean, it's a mess. And the reality is, like, when it passed, most of us heard nothing about it, even though it's like radically, fundamentally changing the openness of the internet. And we still don't hear a lot about it because Donald Trump is too busy tweeting crazy from his fingertips. Right. And like, there's just so much noise that it's hard for anyone to direct their attention at any one thing. And like, in the meantime, we're all living in the fucking Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah, it really literally blows my mind that the values that are held by, you mentioned, but Donald Trump, like the people that are making these decisions and the values that they hold and the way that they're communicating, we just watching them talk on a video is just challenging for me to even sit through. But then here's like legitimate, like, content that, like what you're sharing, or even like you mentioned, like Tumblr or personals, or like some of the stuff that I've been affected with on Facebook. And I'm like, are you even reading what I'm posting? I mean, these are actually designed to help people. Like, they're designed to help people deal with some issues. So why is this getting flagged? And then, if I flip on the TV or something and then watching what's being, held in esteem, it just feels like the absolute opposite of values that I hold. And I think that we need to hear things like Calvin's. We need to have a platform for sex workers to have like legitimate ways of meeting people and that protects them. I mean, it really blows my mind, truly.
And also, I think like these laws, like, it seems very conceptual, but the reality is, like, they actually have consequences that affect people. That this is happening. Like, sex censorship is happening. It's not this might happen. It's not this is down the road. Like, this is happening in real time in front of us. And I just like don't understand why like more people aren't angry. I something like do you care? Like, does anyone care? Like, is this microphone on? Tap, tap, tap. Like,
I know. Well, like the whole like analogy about like the frog jumping into boiling water, it would jump out. If like he's in the water and it's cold and then you turn the heat on, it slowly gets hotter and hotter and hotter. He'll swim around till he dies because he's actually just like stuck in the water. I love that analogy. And I think about that around these sorts of things too. Like, people are just kind of like lulled to sleep with whatever they are. And like, well, that doesn't really affect me, or I'm like, well, no, but it actually does. And I don't know. I think that it's testimony to, on a grander sense, just how deeply shame still affects people around sexuality. I mean, it's not like other things that are being flagged. It's something that's very innate to each and every one of us, and it's very personal to everybody, even in every single person.
Yeah, you make a good point though about like that it's happening in slow motion, which somehow makes us all like react less severely to it. That like if we woke up one day and YouTube was censored and Craigslist removed personals and Tumblr had removed porn and like, all these things happened at once, we might be like, oh shit. But it's just like, they're spaced out by a month or two. And so we're kind of just like lulled into, well, and then before we know it, we're all dressed in red robes and wearing white bonnets and saying under his eye, as we walk around. Have you seen Handmaid's Tale?
I have not seen it.
Oh, okay, you're not getting my references then.
No.
Hopefully people listening have.
I know that they have. I hear so much about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so for me personally, I'm still very much in like the anger stage of all of this. Like I wish I could tell people like this is what we need to do. Here's my 7-step plan. Like this is how we can mobilize, but like I don't have that right now. Like I make erotic videos. Like that's not who I am. But I think there needs to be like some way for us to direct this anger that we have into some sort of action. And if anyone knows what that needs to be, then like tell me, send me an email, please, because like this is not the world that I want to live in. So
well, and to that point, you're doing a lot. So the more people, if everybody followed their passion, broke down their inhibitions and like expressed what was important to them and really like created things, like things would change. So I mean, the more people that do that, the more it can. I mean, think how involved you are in creating, and I think about that sometimes. I'm like, I can only do so much. I'm like, well, I am doing as much as I can. So. And spreading that to people and watching people come alive. So I also think too, the more that our political sphere changes, because I'm very encouraged with our Congress right now, and I'm really encouraged with some of the things that are happening in there. So I think when that's shifting, these things will shift too, I think.
Yeah. You bring up a good point. I mean, yesterday it was a little ironic. I went to the framing shop. I had just bought a photograph from the Bob Miser Foundation. He's a gay photographer from back in like the 50s and 60s. And he shot some really edgy, really cool gay erotica. So I bought one of his photographs and I went to go get it framed. And the guy that was framing it asked what year it was. And it's this like naked guy, like with his butt out. And he's like dressed as a cowboy. It's like, it's pretty cheesy, but fun. And I said, it's 1953. And he's like, you do realize that like when he was doing this, he could have been arrested for doing this. And yet like, here he was like doing his passion, like his art. And that felt pretty appropriate and pretty inspiring. So let's all keep doing what we're doing and fighting the good fight.
Totally. And whatever angle you're coming from too. I mean, I don't think I've said this on the podcast, but I have told you and hinted at you, even being involved in this project with you and like the Himeros work in general, just as a concept, has helped me work on my own shame. I'm actually engaging really heavily in my own life and my own shadow and my own choice making. And I really love that work. But, this like podcast, the concepts that you put out have helped me with my own struggles in myself, and then conversations with my boyfriend, so I've learned from even being involved too. And so I know that that's helping other people.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of that's the value proposition. Like I'm not presenting myself at all as an expert. Like this is for me, I know nothing. Like I'm just kind of keeping the train moving and I'm learning a lot along the way. So it's kind of like, we're all in this together and learning about ourselves and evolving. So
yeah, it's like funny because when you say like and sex experts and this and that, I'm like, oh, if do you mean expert meaning like I am like totally like a wimp noodle inside today because of this or that, or like I'm showing up and doing workshops and then talking to guys and then feeling really powerful in that space. But then like in my own days where I struggle, it's like, oh fuck, like do I have anything to tell anyone? And like I think it's important to keep that newness and beginner's mind about it.
I have some breaking news.
Break it.
Just as you were saying that, YouTube responded back to me because I asked them if I could introduce them to the journalist. And she goes, thanks for asking. Please ask him to contact press@google.com. Because I'm sure they really check that inbox a lot.
Right. I bet that's
oh my God.
72-hour response time.
72 hours, like they just probably don't respond. It would be my guess. Wow. Great. All right, so let's switch gears. Let's take ourselves out of this place. Finn, we have been working on an upcoming project in Sweden that's based on the cornerstones of eroticism. And since you and I have been really submersed in thinking about what we're going to film, I thought it'd be fun if you could share the cornerstones with our audience. And I guess my first question is like, you didn't invent these cornerstones. Like where did where did these come from, and why does knowing any of these cornerstones even matter?
Yeah, great question. And it's actually been jazzing me all day to think about these cornerstones as it relates to some of the work we're doing. Yeah, the cornerstones are by the work of Jack Moran. He's a sex therapist and researcher, and he's been doing an ongoing massive research project for the last decade where he collects people's peak experiences and their fantasies, and he really helps break down what those components mean. And he has really broad, pools of information that he has crafted these really intricate pieces of our erotic expression from. So it's like whenever we have an exciting peak experience and we think, wow, that was just so amazing, and I'm not really sure why he was hot, and then you go on a streak of sex looking for that again, and it might be a while before you have that same kind of experience again. And so by utilizing the framework that Jack Moran has brought into coaching and sex therapy, it's really helpful for everybody to kind of know, well, what is it that really turns me on? Like, why do I get so excited about certain types of sex and not others? Because then you can be less, just kind of drifting around circumstantially and be more actively engaged in like setting up the kind of sexual connections that you're wanting. And it's just really helpful. It's also it's helpful in harms reduction too. Like if you're in a space where you're attracted to something that ends up hurting, like or the kind of guy that you just get hurt by all the time, or just all kinds of reasons why. Go ahead.
If you understand your cornerstone, if you understand the cornerstones, then like an artist with his canvas, you can paint the experiences that you want. Sex is an art.
Exactly.
Art is sex is art. Yeah. So the first cornerstone is what I call the grinder cornerstone. This is anticipation and longing.
Yes.
So what is meant by that?
That is when you are just really turned on by the process of wanting. So even more maybe than the having. So if you're just like really like you love to edge, or maybe you love missing your boyfriend so much, and that's more exciting for you than when you actually get to be with him, or on Grindr, and it just is more exciting to just like have all these conversations with this unlimited potential. Or maybe like, when you're actually with a lover, if you just really get off to slowing everything down and like maybe enjoying every single little spot on his body, that's very different than some people that just want to like rush in and be fast and like furious and just be taken in a different kind of way. So that cornerstone is about, the slowness or the collapse of the time frame.
And I think if people, even if you haven't experienced this sexually, or if you don't think you've experienced this sexually, you have experienced this in other aspects of your life. Like I know for me as a child, this was Christmas. Like,
yes, totally.
As soon as Santa started, going down the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade, you knew you're on that like 4-week drumbeat until Christmas morning. And then the lights come out, the tree goes up, and it's just like more and more anticipation. You're like, what am I going to get? What am I going to get?
Totally.
And then you get a couple pairs of socks and like some new underwear or something. But like you have a whole month of excitement around it. And it's kind of tapping into that same thing, but in a sexual construct. Well, it's like, and for me this weekend, I'm going to Key West, and I'm going to see Chad, and we keep talking about how excited we are to see each other and all the dirty, nasty things we're going to do to each other. I can't wait to suck his dick. And I just gave myself a little moment there. And it's a lot of energy, right? It's generating. So the anticipation, longing cornerstone is about the act of generating energy towards something. Like you're wanting it so bad. And not everybody really gets off on that. Some people are like, no, I want it now. And that's more exciting for them. Wow.
Yeah. But, this dovetails very nicely into the next cornerstone, because at Christmas time, I always like to unwrap my presents early and then wrap them back as if I'd never done that. So
what would that be called?
That would be like the violation of prohibition.
So this is cornerstone number 2, the violation of prohibition.
Yeah. The naughtiness factor. Yeah.
Yes.
Which I love that shit, because I'm an ex-minister. So I love doing things that are subversive.
Well, we're thinking in terms of how we're going to portray this on film. I don't want to give away too many secrets. However, we're thinking about filming like some outdoor sex stuff where like there's hikers going by in the background. Finn, you had a very amazing idea. 2 guys fucking, and the top like puts a Bible in the bottom's mouth to bite on.
Yeah.
I just heard an audible gasp from
I'm
our
all,
audience.
I know. Well, I mean, it's yeah, anything that there's like a tremendous amount of power in like the idea of prohibition, to have that line flirted with and broken it's a release of energy. So if one lives in a state of consciousness in himself or herself or whatever, that I'm not allowed, I'm not allowed, I'm not allowed, I'm not allowed, or like socialize that way as a child, when the moment of breaking the rule, I mean, like, I can do what I want, can be a tremendous release. And so it's usually, someone that has experienced a lot of shame around sex can be really drawn to this cornerstone. But it's a really powerful one. We hear people ask questions a lot on here about like public sex, and yeah, it can be really something that people have a hard time turning down, actually.
Yeah. And then our third cornerstone is seeking power.
Mm-hmm.
What's that about?
Like the cop pulls you over and you suck him off and get out of your ticket, or like, being really obsessed with your boss, and not because you're attracted to him physically, but because of the power dynamic, or, teacher and student, dad, son.
And the last but not least, this one's a little bit more, this one I had the hardest time kind of wrapping my head around, but it's the overturning of ambivalence.
Yeah. So yeah, that is a little challenging for people initially, but then I think we can relate to this. It's when like, you're like kind of like, well, one example is like, having sex with your ex, and you may really dislike this person, and maybe they're texting you and you're like, oh, okay, I hate him. And then you like give in, because it's not that you hate him or even that you necessarily like the sex. You just like the tension between your yes and your no. And so that can be a really big thing for somebody. Or like, being simultaneously grossed out by somebody and turned on. I mean, that's happened to me. So
I've had probably the experience of this where you're like at a nude beach. We talked about this, and you're like standing there fully clothed and everyone else is naked, and you're like, should I do this? Am I going to skinny dip? Like, should I? And then you have this moment where you're like, fuck it. Yeah, I'm going to do it. And you take your clothes off. It also reminds me of Matt and I went to a clothing optional hotel in Palm Springs called Indulge for my 30th birthday. And he was like horrified by it, because, Matt's a little bit fancier than I am, and isn't one to necessarily engage in a clothing optional establishment. And neither of us actually got naked when we were there, but he did like kind of just give into it. And like, he had tons of fun hanging out and chatting with everyone, and we had a really good time. So, why are there only 4 though? Like, are there any cornerstones that aren't encompassed by this? Like, is there a 5th or a 6th? Like,
I imagine
is this everything?
I mean, I imagine there's other nuances, but I think, like he's a pretty, he himself is a cornerstone in the sex therapy field. His work informs many processes, but I think what I believe is that depending on what population, and it's not like gay specific that he works in, I have like done a lot of work with gay men around these themes, and I do notice like different themes with gay men. So, yeah, what we haven't really gotten into, and is kind of maybe for future, is just the emotional accelerators. So inside these cornerstones, those might be like the bricks in the space, but like what makes it all come together is like the emotions that you're having while you're having the sex. So it can really throttle those cornerstones into full effect. And that's why it can be so, maybe there's this one person in your life that it's just so enthralling with them. And if you really break down what it is, it's not that person. You really claim the power for yourself. It's like, when I'm with this person, I feel this, and this emotion. And those are emotions for me that I don't know how to let out unless I'm with this guy. But it can be really powerful to know that. And I think it's cool because you just start building your own self practice around sex, and creating who you are, versus just kind of responding to circumstance and kind of going around looking for it vicariously a lot,
Yeah. Well, that's a great way to introduce us into our next topic, which is the video, this week's Himeros.tv video, which is called Light Me Up, featuring Pierce Paris and Remy Cruz. You can watch a free preview on Himeros.tv. So some of the videos, like what we're just discussing in Sweden, they take a lot of thought and a lot of input. And then there's other times where I just tell the director that I think we should use lasers and film a glow stick coming out of someone's butt. And that was this week's video. The video opens with a Pablo Picasso quote that says, "Sex is art," and it features some like really cool. I mean, the whole video is just beautiful to watch. There's just different, like, arresting, like, gorgeous shots of guys with laser lights and sucking and fucking. And so since the quote is "sex is art," I think a great place to start is, what is art?
Right.
So according to Oxford Dictionary, art is the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, typically in a visual form, such as a painting or a sculpture, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. And I mean, with that definition, like, I mean, do you think that sex is art?
I think it depends on who's having the sex. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It can be. Yeah.
It can be. Yeah. I think, to be honest, and I know you're going to be like, "Ooh, yeah," but I think anything in life can be an opportunity to be art. Yeah. I think it has to do with like intention and like the power of like what we're bringing to it. So yeah, sex can be, or it can be like real, terrible.
I mean, it doesn't say it has to be good art.
Right. True.
Not all art is good. Like,
right.
maybe good sex is good art, or bad sex is shitty art. Like,
true.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, this video feels like art in that like it's really, there's a lot of creativity, there's a lot of imagination, it's very visual, and I it's beautiful, but it does, I think, produce an emotion, and there's a lot of mystery that plays into it. I will say, like, of all the videos that we have, this isn't necessarily my favorite video. It's definitely worth you guys seeing, and I think, I mean, the reality is, like, it might not be my favorite, but it could be someone else's. I think my criticism of this video is that, like, I think we were all so excited by how visually appealing the video was that we didn't really focus on the connection or the chemistry between the guys. So it was more about like the aesthetics of the scene than the connection. Like, I think I just got like a little too caught up in the lasers and glow sticks. But
I mean,
what do you think?
It could have just ended with the glow stick coming out of his ass.
Yeah.
Been like, wow. I don't know.
Yeah.
I liked the visuals, honestly, and I think I agree about the connection piece. Maybe, but also that, to be fair, it was like the last one. Tired. It had been like a long week, so there's more than the connection, I think, too. Like, I think it was just like, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, it was. It was the 12th video that we had filmed in like a fairly short period of time. So we were probably all a little loopy by that point.
And then the lights and the smoke. I was actually doing the smoke thing, and it was a very difficult job.
You were manning the smoke.
Yes.
Yeah. What was I doing? I think I was shooting some lasers around or something.
Totally.
Like, I think we're taking risks with the content that we make on Himeros. We're doing things that are different or weird. A lot of it is like experimental, and like 100% of the chances that we take are not going to be something that 100% of the people like.
Right.
And some of them really are. Like, I know there are some people that really enjoyed this, and then and so it's definitely, I can promise you, different than anything you've ever seen. So just for that reason alone, make sure you go to himeros.tv/preview. Also, today is Valentine's Day. By the time you're hearing this, it won't be Valentine's Day, but for a few more days, we do have a Valentine's Day special, which is, if you purchase you get 3 months for the price of one. If you get a 3-month subscription, it's the same price as our 1 month non-recurring option. To get that special offer, you have to go to himeros.tv/special. himeros.tv/special. All right. So let's get on to, yes.
I just want to say, though, I did love some of the visuals. to like when his legs were like in the air and like it like came down and like it was like very gorgeous, and also the initial shot of his hole is really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
it
really
like,
pretty.
I don't know, it's really pretty. It could be like a painting actually.
Yeah, I do think for people that were like clicking on it to jerk off, they were probably a little challenged by like
they're like mouth open, like, huh.
All right, so let's get to this week's questions. If you guys have any questions, please email them to davey@daveywavey.tv. That's DAVEYWAVEY. Question number 1. I am a bisexual male who came across your videos. They are great, full of lots of good info. A few years ago, I thought I was straight, and then my wife and I started experimenting. Your videos really helped. Then about a year ago, she had a fantasy about me having intercourse with another man. I was game and I tried it. To be honest, I love it. My wife now lets me have a boyfriend. Finn, did you write this?
No, my story wasn't quite this tidy.
When my boyfriend and I make love, it is perhaps one of the most orgasmic experiences I have. His penis is nice and long, about 9 inches, and has good thickness. Man, this guy has it all. A question I have is this. When he and I have intercourse and it hits my prostate, why is it that I seem to ejaculate more than when my wife gives me a blowjob? That's the question. That's the question. So this wasn't you, Finn?
No. But I did have boyfriends with a wife.
You did have a boyfriend with a wife, yes.
Yeah,
you had a wife and a boyfriend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's really cool that that she's open and that she had a fantasy of this too. That's one thing that I think is really rad about this question, because I don't think it was my wife's fantasy for me to be in that way. She really wanted me to be with her only. So that wasn't a good ending for us. But yeah, the fact that they're sharing this is really cool. And also that he, and he's like fluid, like sexuality is fluid, and he's kind of discovering himself in this relationship, which is really cool. And the stimulation on the prostate just puts more prostatic fluid out. And it can be really, really turning you on. Like, I don't really know exactly if you're really, really aroused, you're going to become more too. So,
right. Well, and so, yeah, actually, it's funny because all of that shaped my answering of this question, including that his wife seemed really cool potentially. So I mean, for him, like getting his prostate hit, like the reason he's ejaculating more is because that's for him, that's his yummy spot. And it's not for everyone, but it sounds like he found one for himself. And like, it could be because he loves being railed by a big dick, or he loves the sensation of the pressure on his prostate, or he likes being dominated, or any of those things. And I think that it's worth exploring what it is that you love about that. Like, if it really is just about your prostate being, having pressure against it, your wife can certainly do that with her fingers. And it sounds like she's pretty fucking cool. So, you could try that. You can use a toy. She could peg you.
Yeah.
She could put a strap on and fuck you with that. And like that can play into some of the, like, I mean, it's awesome that you've discovered that you love this sexual activity. But there's a lot of juice in there to really explore and play with.
Yeah. It's like a heterosexual cuckold subversion. Like, it's subversion of the power dynamic. It's usually like, I want someone to come fuck my wife. And it's like, I see her like fantasizing, like, I want someone to come nail my husband. And like,
with his big 9-inch dick.
Yeah.
Like,
fucking such a faggot. Look at him.
Yeah. Ooh, how juicy. All right. Question number 2. I'm an openly gay 24-year-old man living in Denver. Ever since coming out when I was 16, I found myself attracted to older men, and I can't really explain why. My boyfriend, whom I've been with for a year and a half, is in his early 40s. We met at the gym when I asked him to spot me while bench pressing. LOL, it says.
LOL.
Yeah. He is the most caring and compassionate person I've ever met. He has taken me on vacations with him, and we genuinely just enjoy each other's company. I'm madly in love with him. I've had some of the best sex of my life with him, and every time it just gets better and better. The problem is that because of his profession, he is not out. He is a divorced father of a teenage girl who he has shared custody with. He is from the South, and he has lived his whole life in the closet, and he has made some progress in coming out, but not much. before I came into his life, he said that he mostly participated in anonymous sex, i.e., bathhouses and sex shops. Those encounters made him feel bad about himself. He's expressed that now he's the happiest he's ever been. I'm not sure what to do. I would never ask him to come out because I respect his journey. I love him and I don't want to let him go, but I'm not sure if he'll ever come out. Should I stick by his side and support him or let him know that I have to move on? What a heartfelt message.
Yeah. I want to know, first of all, I think coming out takes time. So if you're really loving this relationship, my question is, instead of like the focus of this question being on the man that may or may not come out, it's like maybe there's just some really specific things that the person that's asking the question wants that to him, saying coming out might, encapsulate all these things, but maybe, it's like he's really just wanting, I want you to walk down the street holding my hand, or there's missing information for me. So maybe there's, maybe he won't come out of the closet in this grand way until he's totally ready. But if you're happy with him and there's some key things that you're wanting and needing for your own self, then those could be asked for as like a la carte, like, I really want you to go out with me and, put your arm around me. That's something that feels really important to me. And I'm assuming these things because I don't know what that means for him to be in the closet. Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. There's probably a lot of things that he can get from his partner that he might need without his partner being openly gay at work.
Yeah. Cause I mean, we just assume, sometimes what that means, and it is a deeply personal process and it takes a long time for some people. Yeah.
And also like, can he really not be out at work? Like that also might be something that he says as an excuse for his own kind of shame or his own, work that he's his own journey, what he's going through. Something I thought of is that, like there's support groups for spouses of like alcoholics, and most people go into those support groups thinking that they'll learn ways to like treat their spouse or get their spouse away from, alcohol. And what those groups actually teach you are the ways to kind of preserve your own well-being when you're living with an alcoholic. And a lot of people, I think, find that frustrating because in a situation like that, like we just have like a tendency to want to try to change people. But what support groups like Al-Anon recognize is that the only person that you can really change, of course, is yourself. So like for me, it's like, on one hand, let's recognize that things could change with your partner over time. Like you can certainly hope for that. And that, it's going to move in the direction of him being out of the closet. But I also think you need to decide if you're willing to accept where he's at right now. And if you have the capacity to live comfortably like that. And that's not something that like you're going to get from Finn or myself, but that's something you're going to have to answer on your own.
Yeah. I call it like a needs inventory. It's like, what do I need? And what do I need from my relationship versus what I can actually supply for myself? And if this relationship isn't really giving you those things because of him being in the closet, then yeah, maybe it's time to go on. But if it's like, no, I actually get a lot of needs met and there's some specific stuff that I want that you can negotiate. You just negotiate stuff.
Yeah. Please keep us posted. Let us know.
Yeah.
Send us an email. All right. Question number 3. Last week, you talked about being a sober gay guy who doesn't drink. I drink a bit, but not very much. I'm curious why you guys think alcohol is so central to the gay community. It seems like it's everywhere, always. I agree. This question secretly is submitted by me. Except I have some good ideas about why I think that alcohol is so present at gay events and that it has such a central role in our community, which is that I think when I think it's a way for people to cope with like the insecurities and the feelings that come up for them. And like when you're in a room full of gay men, I think there's like a lot that comes up for most gay people. And rather than deal with those things that come up, it's easier just to take a drink and numb yourself a little bit and not care so much. Rather than like sit with those things and be like, okay, why do I feel insecure? Like why, like where is that coming from? let's take a deep dive into that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's really not just gay men, although it is very high in the gay community. I mean, it's like a way that people connect, it's a way for people to drop a guard and to, allow themselves to be more open and uninhibited. And, when attitudes about our bodies and pleasure are so prohibited early on, it affects us as adults. And so, yeah, like Davey was saying, we get a bunch of gay men together. We can't erase the fact that we've been through what we've been through, and that like a lot of people in our lives have really disappointed us and let us down. And so it is easier just to say, oh, fuck it, and drink, and then just have sex, because it's, challenging to deal with the inhibitions and the things that you might really have embedded in your psyche around sex and pleasure and worthiness and all that stuff. So that's, it's not saying, oh, it's good or bad. And it's not like the alcohol is the problem as much as it's just like the group mentality around it. That's why I do the work that I do, is I really care about helping people be honest about what they've been affected by. And I think as people get more open with themselves, they need those substances less. And I've noticed that a lot with people.
Yeah. Even going like to a bar or going dancing, which I do like once every 10 years.
Right.
Yeah. Like in that situation.
And then you're wrecked for 2 days.
Yeah, no, for a week, girl. It like completely throws me off my schedule. So like in situations like that, like it's funny because you kind of feel this like discomfort when you start to dance, and like it takes, a certain kind of confidence that not all of us have. But for me, as someone who has never had alcohol my entire life, like drinking is not, really an option for me. I kind of just have to like sit with that, like that awkwardness and dance anyway. And then actually like you like it's actually a really interesting and it's an exercise that I enjoy. And it's like, okay, if you don't have the confidence to dance, you need alcohol to do it. Like maybe it's worth taking an examination of like, why that is rather than just take that drink and dance anyway. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. And I have to say, like, I've been on both sides of the spectrum, and I'm not like sober now as a practice necessarily, although I am mostly sober all the time. And I used to have to drink a lot to dance and to have sex and all those things too, because I was really struggling a lot on the inside. And nowadays I don't like to drink, and it's not like a rigorous choice or anything. Sometimes I'll have like a glass of wine with my mom or something, but mostly I just don't like the way it feels. And I feel like it actually makes me, not dance as well or not be able to have as good of a conversation. And I used to think it was just helping me be so fluid in conversation. And like, I don't think now it's like, I don't think it's my best self when I drink. So
yeah, you might think you're having great conversation, but I can promise you, as like the sober person in a room full of drunk people, it's not fun. I often I find myself just kind of like checking out of conversation because I'm like, look, like I'm just gonna hear a whole bunch of stupid and like and no one's gonna remember it tomorrow anyway. So like, what's the value in me finding words to talk with these people? So, all right. Well, so next week we're going to talk about a video called Sexually Transmitted Joy. And in the meantime, make sure you guys go to himeros.tv/special to get that 3-for-1 Valentine's Day, I guess at this point, belated discount. You can give it to yourself. You can give it to your partner. Give each other the gift of good sex. Finn, where can people find more of you?
Go to finndeerhart.com, FINNDEERHART.com.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for listening. And as always, more to come.